Hi everyone, welcome to eLearnChat, where you always learn something new. Today I've got with us our good friend coming to us from England. She's Scottish, of course. We've got Lesley Price with www.learnappeal.com or coming soon, learnappeal.org.uk.
Next week.
How you doing? Next week?
Next week, yeah. It's the Learning Technologies Conference, and we're launching then.
Great. That's really good. This is loud. Let me bring this down. There we go. And go take a look at that. It's a great charity. They do good work. And Lesley is the chief cook and bottle washer for it. She does a lot of work with them. On the video switcher mixer, we've got Harold Muliati. And today we've got a special guest, a good friend. He was our very first guest on eLearnChat, 11 years ago or 12? I don't remember how many years it's been. It's been over a decade. And he's back. It's Bill Cushard. He'll join us in a moment. Here we go. This show is sponsored by Relate Corporation at www.relate.com, your training and video partner.
Hello, I'm Peter Baker. Please visit voiceovermasterclass.com to see details of the training courses I have on offer for new and existing voice talents to further their career by enhancing voice and technical skills, as well as essential marketing tips.
And we are back, and in, of course, our center position of power. We've got Bill Cushard with us. And Bill, not only are you our first guest, that was when Terrence was still with us, and he joined me on the podcast, and we just had a great time. Well, Bill's a sharp guy. He really is. He's one of those guys that does a lot, knows a lot, very pleasant to know, and just a good person on the whole. Bill, tell us what you've been up to.
Wow, my goodness, all the things I've been up to. My job at Learndot is helping software companies, build their customer training. I do a podcast called Helping Sales Radio. I wrote a book last year, and I try to ski on the weekends.
That sounds good. Are you still in Colorado?
No, I am at the moment, I am in Palo Alto.
Oh, okay.
California, and I live in Reno, Nevada.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you moved around a bit.
I have, yes.
Reno's nice.
It's interesting.
Reno's nice
really
and
nice. We like
you're real close to Tahoe.
Yes.
Which is gorgeous.
I've been there.
You've been to Tahoe?
I've been there. Yeah, absolutely.
Which part?
Very first trip. My very first trip. When I went to the US, my parents gave me a birthday present of my 21st to go to Lake Tahoe, all through Yosemite, up to Lake Tahoe, down to Nevada, everything. And that was, as I say, I went for a month.
Wow. Nice.
Wow.
Loved it. Absolutely. And it's not that fortunately I had friends there. But it's not very often, back in the day, you're going back 40 years. It's not very often that 40 years ago, somebody from the UK spent a month in doing California and then up to Tahoe, Yosemite, down through Nevada, and then back all the way home, back all the way to San Francisco again.
Well, you know what? I'm not quite 40 years, but I haven't been up to Tahoe in probably 38 years or 9. It's been a long, long time. And it was really pretty up there. I imagine they developed it a lot more now than it used to be, but because I remember they were building back then. So Bill, you're general manager of Learndot. Now, Learndot is an LMS, or is it something else too?
Well, it's more than an LMS, Rick.
Okay.
I'm surprised you didn't read that on the website.
I've got...
Yes. Yes, I'm being funny, but yes, it is an LMS, and it's a different kind of LMS, though, in the sense that it is made to exist on a software company's website so that customers can discover the training for the software. And find it, register for it, purchase it, etc. And so, you could call it an ERP system for a training team.
Yeah.
You could call it an e-commerce product because customers use it to sell training. Software training is big business, especially for open source software companies, but
Right.
cloud companies too, right? Because it's a service that has some value, and learning software is difficult and requires effort and proper learning design for one, and resources to make it and maintain it, and et cetera. So it's a business in software companies, not unlike professional services, right? Or support, et cetera.
That's neat. Did you found Learndot or
No,
became the general manager for it?
I became the general manager for it this year. Actually, this is sort of a new role. So
Nice.
I run, you might say I run the P&L for the business. So I have responsibility for, the product, for customers, for the team, for the culture, for growing the business, et cetera.
Well,
Yeah.
you've always had a good business background, and you tied that business background into the learning space. And that's what a lot of learning people, unfortunately, don't have a lot of, which is a good business background. Well, so it's been, we've had you on not 10 years, no, more than just 10 years ago. We've been on quite a few times, but it's been like at least 3, 4, 5 years since you've been on. And what have you seen as some of the changes going on in the field that you notice, customers may notice that you have? What's new? What's different?
I'll tell you, I come from a slightly different angle, right? So, our business is not to develop education programs for employees at the corporate level.
Right.
What we're doing is customers. So it's a little bit different in the sense that a customer comes to your website and says, "Oh, I want to buy that class and send my team to it, or take your video that's free or whatever." And so that makes it different because how you evaluate training might change, how you develop the training needs to change, how you structure the team, what your strategy is, sort of needs to change. Even though, yes, instructional design matters, and deciding, do we want to do on-demand or live training or both? Do we want to do small snippets of micro-learning, or do we want to organize 4-day on-site at the Marriott Ballroom, software training class with the famous trainer, and give out the t-shirts and all those things. So you have to make all these decisions. But what I'm seeing is two camps forming. So there's these 2 points of view. One is a software company that says, you know what? Training is part of our marketing strategy. It's part of our customer success strategy. So we are going to invest heavily in it. We're going to have people pay for it because it's worth that much. And some software companies actually charge premium amounts. If you want to show up at the Marriott in Denver or Paris for the 4-day class, that's going to be $3,000 a person. And it's going to be important, and you're going to learn how to do hard stuff in hard software. And we lead with that, right? And then over time, what we do is we build out other modalities of training delivery, right? All the ones everyone who listens to this knows about. Now, there's another camp, and normally I would say that the open source software company is probably more likely to lead with that approach because services is a way to earn revenue, and software is free, right? So in a world where software is free, you have to make money somewhere and run a business. There is a class of cloud SaaS companies, the software as a service type of software. They believe that training is part of the service, the second S in SaaS, and think that it should be free, and the subscription to the software gets all of it. And so companies like this, which sort of lead with product, are doing a low touch approach, and they sort of lead with videos, or lead with help, lead with knowledge base, lead with guides and performance support and all those kinds of things. And maybe they grow to a live model over time, because the day will come when a huge enterprise buys your SaaS product and they say, "So when are you coming out to train us?" And the SaaS company will say, "Here's a link to a video." And they go, "Well," so that whole conversation changes. So somewhere both of these points of view converge on each other, and customer education teams, as they mature, grow into offering multiple modalities of delivery, for lack of a better term, right? So that's what I'm seeing in the market.
Can I just slightly interrupt you there, Bill? Because I was doing some research, and I, because you were going to be on the show, and I noticed that one of the things that you're interested in is marketing and the importance of marketing.
Yes.
Now, my background is actually in marketing. When I was at school, or as we would say in the UK, university, I actually studied marketing and applied business economics. That was my subject area. I studied under Professor Michael Baker, who then went on to run the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK. And so I got into learning kind of by accident, and I actually taught marketing and applied business economics, and then got into technology and and stuff through that. But one of the things I've seen as I've moved into learning technologies is, and I've always said to people, is why are you not using marketing techniques? Because the techniques that you learn in marketing should be absolutely center to what you're doing in learning, or to me, they should. And I think learning people need to understand more about marketing.
That is especially true in our business, where you're producing training for a customer, right? And I will tell you, a top 5 complaint of a customer education team would be, how do we tell our customers that this stuff exists? Right?
Yeah.
So it's a communication strategy. It's really not that much different if you're a large corporation training employees. Like, how do you persuade people to take the training, beyond the required annual compliance thing that has to happen? There's this element of, telling people about it, persuading people about it, giving people a reason to do it. I will say, though, that instructional designers are good at one thing that marketing is also good at, and that is marketing people are good. The good ones are good at identifying the customer type or the buyer persona and getting into the head of the buyer. And to some extent, a good instructional designer does the same thing. Like, I have a learner out there. They need to learn something. Why do they need to learn it? What do they need to learn? What is hard about it for them? How can we design something so you sort of have to know who your audience is. And ISDers are really good at that. But instructional designers aren't good at the communicating and persuading and, hey, look at me, come to my class, and track the conversions and see, the percent of people who showed up and signed up but didn't start it and didn't take it and got 13% into the video. That's the hard stuff. And
my specialist area within marketing, the area that I was interested in, and interestingly, when I actually finished, I was invited by those in the university, by the senior lecturers in the university, to carry on and do a PhD. I turned it down because I wanted to get out to work, but I was invited to do my subject area was in consumer behavior. And to me, consumer behavior links so closely to learning. It's almost like not quite 2 peas in a pod, but so if you've got these skills, you can use them in learning, and likewise, the people from learning could learn a lot from. So, it works both ways. People in marketing could learn from the folks in learning, and the people in learning could learn from the folks in consumer behavior.
Well, it's funny because if you look at marketing, if it's done right, you change it from I want something to I need that.
Yeah, that's right.
And what a big difference that is. I think I want that. I really want to get that. No. I need it. And once you need it, you got to get it. There's just no waiting anymore. Now you're driven to get that because you need it. It's just interesting. Not that many people, like you said, Bill, in the learning arena say, I need that training. They go, I kind of want to take that training, or I don't really want to do it, but I have to. But if you can create that sense of need, and create a little bit of excitement around that need, all of a sudden everybody wants to do it. It's just interesting how that kind of mass mentality works of, well, if everybody else has done it, well, I've got to do it. And, and like you said, if you're selling to the clients, the customers who have clients, then they want to make sure they're generating that interest, especially if they're charging for it, to get people to show up, to do the learning and the need. And I was in the database world, like you.
That comes back down to consumer behavior.
Yeah.
It's all about consumer behavior, and not just the consumer as the learner, but also the consumer who is your business partner.
Yeah.
What makes their mind tick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about what a marketing person does to sell training. Oh, think about what a marketing person does to sell a product. You sort of have to find people to communicate a problem that they have to help. Oh, I do have that problem. Yeah. I wonder how I can solve that problem. And here's how. Oh, I didn't know I could solve the problem with this kind of a product. Oh, I didn't know that kind of a product existed. And then the next step is like, oh, this particular product among all the products that exist works for me. I like that. I think I might buy that. It's just the same thing with training, right? People who work in companies who need to improve their skills have a problem. I don't know what that would be. I want to do better at my job. I want to get a promotion. I want to change careers. I want to just be good at my next performance review. So if you could tap into what those different problems are, and there's all kinds, you can say, oh, you want to get promoted to senior manager of marketing? Well, you'd better learn these 3 skills. Oh, how do I learn those skills? I didn't know I could take a Coursera course. I didn't know my company offered access to a catalog of marketing. Oh, I can learn that, etc. So you could imagine this journey, like discovering the problem, discovering that a solution exists to the problem, and then discovering your particular solution to that problem, among others. And so I don't know why training is that much different. Of course it is, but not really.
It's not really that much different.
I generally don't. I don't think it is. And I just, when people involved in trying to encourage those involved in the industry, whether that be the learners or whether that be the senior management, I just think that, I'm always saying to people, please look at the marketing techniques that you could put in place. It's not just about, I know there's product, price, promotion in place. I know there's the 4 Ps, but there is so much more to marketing than the 4 Ps.
I'd like to add something here and sort of shift the conversation, because it just occurred to me that software companies, maybe an L&D person can learn from this somehow, and I don't know what exactly the lesson is, but software companies are building up fairly extensive and rigorous training programs on their software, right? They have an incentive to do that for lots of reasons. If people learn how to do Splunk, or people learn Hadoop, or people learn Jira, they take that skill with them to other jobs, right? They look for jobs and say, oh, this job requires Jira knowledge. I can apply. And recruiters start to say, we require Jira knowledge. And so there's this perpetuating cycle. So these software companies have to make this. Software companies are changing the narrative by saying, we are defining a category of skill or competence, and you need to come to us to learn it. And they're offering these training programs to people who aren't even customers. And I'll give you an example of a marketing company that does this. HubSpot sells marketing automation software. Now, in the early days, before they started doing product training, like how do you click buttons in our software to do marketing stuff, they created a certification program called inbound marketing. Inbound marketing did not exist as a term until HubSpot, a software company, said it did. And they created a 13-module, multiple-hour program with some live and some on demand and some quizzes. It was, it wasn't like a proctored exam, but you had to study. And people took this. They weren't even HubSpot customers. Well, guess what? People took this. They put the badge on their LinkedIn profile and on their websites and on their blogs and said, look, I'm inbound marketing certified. And then recruiters started to say, we want to hire an inbound marketing specialist, and we require an inbound marketing certification. And now all these people said, oh, we require someone who knows HubSpot.
Yeah.
Right. And people became buyers of HubSpot. Recruiters started hiring people. And so they created this whole industry. They created demand for this thing that didn't exist before, called inbound marketing. Whoever heard of inbound marketing? I never did. Now I know it. And so, a company who wants to train marketers can choose, like an L&D director could say, well, we might want to build our own marketing skill, or just send employees to the HubSpot website and go learn that, get your credential. So this is it. They're creating the demand. Same with Microsoft certification. Same with, that's what Cisco did with all their Cisco network engineering credentials, on and on and on. They're creating this demand, right? With training.
It's so true. And Bill, I came from the IT space originally. I spent 20-something years in IT and in IT management later. And in the IT world, it was different. It's kind of more like what you're saying. People wanted to learn the languages, the programming languages that made money. They wanted to go to the operating systems that made money. So you would get people that wound up in mini computers, which were not small computers. They were just refrigerator size, much smaller than a mainframe, which was huge. And the mini computers didn't pay as well because they were technically easier. And they were easier, not because they were worse. It was just because they had evolved. Whereas the mainframes were still doing things hard. It's not like the video industry. People go to certain video editing tools, which are hard as hell for no reason other than, well, the movie industry likes that. And they want to be considered professionals because they're not if they go Final Cut Pro on the Mac, because that's easier. They're just as hard to edit with, but one's a lot harder for no reason other than we're professionals. Well, same thing with programming languages. Some are very easy. I was the guy who didn't go that much for the money, but I went for the best tools I could find. I went for the 4th generation language products. They were much more natural language. And you could do in 5 lines of code what would take 10,000 lines to do in C or C++. Big difference. And I was business oriented, so I wanted to make sure it was quicker. But in the e-learning world, the learning world, I don't hear that. I want to go learn this tool or that tool, or I want to do something to get up there from. No, I think that's part of the issue maybe with the industry. People don't really think about how can I grow in this industry by doing certain things. Maybe there's a little bit of that, but not so much in the tech space of the industry. What do you think?
It's an interesting question. I haven't thought about it much beyond this, what we're talking about now. But imagine in the computer industry, computers are quote unquote hard to learn, let's say. So I think the software companies, what they were doing was saying, and they're doing it today, it's like, we have to commit to helping people learn this. Because if people learn it, they're going to use it. They're probably going to hopefully buy from us. I mean, there's this incentive to create this learning of the thing we're building, right? That then perpetuated into someone knows this skill, someone needs to make that skill a requirement to hire, a requirement to get the job, and then you have that cycle. And if you look at other industries, I don't know, product management or HR or operations, I think a lot of people go into those jobs and they just go into them somehow. Like when I got into L&D, I didn't go to school for L&D. I went into it because I liked teaching, and I fell into it. So there isn't any effort. I think SHRM does a pretty good job with their SHRM credentials, right? But still, a lot of people, I think, go into HR because they go into it. They see a job description for a generalist, and they think they can do it. Someone gives them a chance, and now they become a senior whatever of HR one day, right? So I don't think there's been commitments in other disciplines to say you need this credential, because technology maybe is harder. There was a reason to build out this whole, everyone listening to this might have heard of New Horizons Learning Center.
Yes.
Right? They've been teaching technology for years. They do a $33 billion a year business, teaching people software skills, right? This is big business. And so, I don't know, because they're hard. I don't know. Not all of us can just learn Cisco and Microsoft on our own, I guess.
They are a little bit harder. They're a little trickier.
But it's fine having these skills, okay? So you can go to college, you can do it online, you can do whatever. But when you actually want to get a job in an organization, one of the things you have to do is to be able to sell yourself.
Yep.
And that's, again, another marketing skill. So it's not just, I can use the technology, I can do this. It's, and if I've got this skill, this is what I can do with it, and this is how it can benefit your company. And it's the same, I'm sure, in Rick's industry, in Relate and all the media stuff that they do. It's not just having that. It's, and this is the benefits. This is how it will benefit you. And one of the things I think that both learning people and techie people are not very good at is being able to sell the benefits. They focus too much on the minutiae of how many pieces of software you can use and da-da-da.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting over an interview table, and the person on the other side is going, oh, yeah.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because a lot of the tech people don't know how to communicate. They have a really hard time. They're on that kind of Asperger's spectrum of engineers and programmers. They're very similar. They're not the most social or most personal. I think I mentioned this in one of the shows recently, but I got a job. That was with Marsh & McLennan, a big insurance brokerage firm. And I was interviewing, I guess there was some other people I was quote unquote competing against. I had no idea who they were, but I went in and the guy I was interviewing with said, all right, show me what you can do. Show me how you do this. So I just got on the terminal and showed him, and he went, I didn't know you could do that. And so we're going through it. And I was kind of having a good conversation with him. And finally, he made me an offer like a week later. And he goes, it was between you and that other gal, and you just smiled better, and I like your smile. I was going, that's why I got hired?
What about the computer stuff?
He didn't care. He figured I knew enough. But he said you communicated. And he liked that more because I had to deal with all the customers, internal customers. We were a service provider for external payroll to people like Walt Disney and Lockheed, and there were tons. So we had to communicate with a lot of people and a lot of different companies, and we had definite deadlines. And they liked the fact that I could communicate. And it was really funny. Most of my career has been because even though I was good techie, I didn't care about that. They care the fact that you can communicate with others, both technically and non-technically, business oriented. And that's what's one of our differentiators at Relate. We've always been very business oriented. We tend to specialize a lot in banking. We have a lot of banking experience. And that's because I fell into banking by coincidence from a stint I did when I lived in Argentina for 3 years as I was an English teacher at Berlitz for 9 months. And I met a whole mess of executives, and I got offers from about 4 or 5 of them, and I went with Citibank at the time. Should have gone with IBM, but that was different. And Citibank looked more interesting. I got into international credit, and from there it just kind of kept going. But it's interesting what gets you where. We all kind of fall into it somehow. Well, not all of us, but a lot of us fall into it. So it is fascinating. And you're right, Lesley, if you don't communicate well, you don't market yourself, and you're not able to cross that barrier of tech or training or something to talk to somebody who's not into that, you're probably not going to do as well. Yeah, you may rise.
So do you find this too? So do you find this too, Bill? Is this something that in your world, in what you're doing, you're coming across this even now?
I'm going to say no, because and I'm going to just argue somewhat for the sake of arguing, but things are changing in the sense that I may be an engineer and I may not be the most outgoing person, and I'm not going to go into marketing and event planning, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. However, I can go on to any one of 2 scores of software company websites, find some technology to learn, and then set up my GitHub account. GitHub is a website, a social website where people can post code snippets that they're working on for other people to see. You can say, hey, see, look what I did. I just made a 1-page application that if you go to it, it turns pink when the sun goes down behind your back. Wow, I didn't know you could do that. So people can learn these things, and they're posting their GitHub profile, and they're saying, look, all the applications I built. I can build a website. I can build an audio generator. I can build a translator. And I sold it to Google, called Google Translate, because they saw it. So I might not be able to sell myself in the traditional sense, but if I can learn anything possible on the internet, I can create my own website for free. I can put my code snippets on GitHub that anybody can look at. I'm communicating, and I don't have to go to the interview because I can just say, here's my GitHub profile. If you like what you see, you can hire me. It's as simple as that.
That's a really good point. That's a great point, actually, because we didn't have that when we were growing up.
Correct.
And so we had to go through other methods. But you're right. You could sell with any of those tools. You're as good a salesman as anybody else.
And think about the interview.
As long as you tell people about them. As long as you tell people about them. Because an awful lot of techies do stuff, and because they work in communities, and they're, you're talking about GitHub, because they are part of that GitHub community, they do it, and they then make the assumption, everybody will know. But actually, everybody doesn't know. You've got to be able to say, this is what I can do, and this is the benefits that will be for your company. So
and also you've got to cross, and you've got to cross that. Well, so there's another thing that Bill said. There's that other step. You've got to cross the divide between the manager in some of these departments who's not that techie. They may not know about a GitHub, or they may not know what good code is. So you have that issue too. Not everybody, for example, in engineering, IT, or whatever, who's in management is a solid engineer or programmer or systems analyst or any of that. But they got into it because they were quote unquote managers. I remember what's that show called? The IT Group or something like that. It's a British show. The IT Crowd. Hey, you guys ever seen that?
No.
Oh, I didn't watch a lot of it because after a while it's repetitive. But the very first show starts out with this girl interviewing for a job. She's pretty, and the manager goes, "Do you know what a mouse is?" "Yes, I do, and I know Microsoft Office." "You're the new director. Great." and it's a funny show. The first show is hilarious, absolutely hilarious, because it's not that far from the truth sometimes. Because a lot of the tech guys or girls for that matter, don't want to be managers. They like what they do. They don't want to deal with the people aspects of being, of dealing with other techies. They don't want to do that. So you wind up getting people in those fields which aren't that technical, but kind of know how to work both ends. They can be a universal translator for the techs as well as the end users. And there's a real need for that. But, it's just one of those kind of things. But, even today, after how many years, I've been in the industry a long time, and people still don't know computers that well. It's mind-boggling. We deal with managers all the time. You just go, wow, they still don't understand. You'd think after 40, 50 years of computers out there or whatever, no, still about the same. Because it doesn't appeal to them other than learning the basic task, Office or whatever they're doing. They don't want to learn how to program it. They don't want to learn how it works. They don't care how the operating system does things. What's a backup? What's a restore? I don't care. They just get it. Just do it for me. So it is interesting. And to a certain point, that's how the learning community is too. They know what needs to be done sometimes. We find often, and Bill, you can probably validate this or not, that a lot of training companies and even training departments don't go out and find customers. They wait for them to find the training group. That doesn't happen that often.
That is actually a good point, because in the customer training world, I have to anticipate my customer's need ahead of time. Mm-hmm. It's not good enough for me to build a class on how to use the software when you become a new customer. What about 2 years from now, when I've been using your software for 2 years? What's the next thing a customer has to learn how to do using your software? Okay, well, what's the use? So we talk about use cases in technology, right? What are the use cases? Well, you buy Dropbox, let's say, to store your files, so you don't have to store them on your computer and lose them if your hard drive fails. Well, someone might buy Dropbox and only use it to store their files. They never learned that, oh, I can share a file with my friend. I didn't know that. But like someday in the future, you have to anticipate some of our customers could do these other things with their life if only they knew how to. And so you take that times a million with complicated software, all the different ways you can use it. And you have to anticipate, because if you don't, guess what? In a world of subscription software, customers that don't renew is bad for business, right? So you need, now, if I am an L&D manager and I'm trying to, anticipate the next need of my audience, a customer service team or for example, or a sales team, what's my motivation for doing that? My motivation as a customer training person is I can sell training and have a profit in my team, or I can say, hey, I help the product sell more, or we get the renewals more. I have a reason. But what's my incentive to help a customer service team learn the next customer service use case? Well, maybe it's more productivity and I can say I claim that, or maybe it's more upselling because they say, can I sell you on something else when you call? I don't know what that is, but there is an element of, hey, customer service team, you need to learn this stuff tomorrow. It's not just a new hire training program. That's only the beginning.
But
and
then,
a lot of times we don't have time for that.
Yeah, but also you've then got to be able, whether you're on the tech side or whether you're on the L&D side, the person, when you're talking to the person on the other side of the table, you've got to try and work out what is the with him, what is the what's in it for me, for that other person. And again, that's something that I was taught from, when I was doing marketing. What is the with him? What is the what's in it for me? Because unless people, no matter what they're doing, even if you're just sitting at home yourself, you were then talking about using, GitHub. Why should I use it? What's in it for me? So, in marketing terms, you'd probably call it customer benefit analysis. But, I'll just talk about the with him, the what's in it for me.
And I would talk about it in context of the problem you're trying to help someone solve. Someone has a problem they want to solve. A salesperson wants to make their quota. A customer service person wants to get on the ranking of the top most productive customer service agent. Yeah. The marketing manager wants to become a CMO one day, right? So there's, it goes back to that understanding the buyer, understanding your audience, like we talked about that earlier. Yeah, that's the real work. Let me just tell a quick story about the work. I read a book by Dan Kennedy about copywriting. This is unrelated to this, except that he said when he took a job to write a sales letter for an industry he knew nothing about. So he writes in the book that he went to the library, so you can tell when this was written. He went to the library and he looked up every single back issue of the 2 trade industry journals for that industry and read them all. And he didn't say how many issues, but I was just reading this going, how many years of an industry that is, how many issues per year, and how many different industries, there's 2 of them. I'm like, it must have been hundreds. He must have spent a month in the library 2 hours a day. And so that he did this to understand the buyer, right? And so I look at that and I say, first of all, I'm in marketing and I don't even come close to doing that. And I used to be an L&D, and that didn't even occur to me at all. So the level of effort we need to do to understand our learner, our buyer, our audience, I think 99% of us are only doing 1%, including me, right? It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. And it's not getting any better either. So it's just sort of an interesting thing. I think it's going to be one of those eternal problems of how we sell something to someone else, how we market it, and how we generate that interest. It's a tough one. And now you're dealing with mindsets that are about that of a gnat. It's, they go to a website for 2 seconds, they're gone. It's like, wow,
that's right.
What did they not see in that website? It could have been the colors, it could have been anything. Gone. Boom. And you just go, wow, that's interesting.
I mean, this is the challenge of making all these online videos and e-learning courses, and the customer side I'll speak of. Yeah. Coursera is famous for having, the 5 or 7% completion rate. Like everybody signs up, but then no one does it. And, software companies want to put free videos on their website and say,
Yeah.
learn our software. And they assume that someone's going to be in the dentist office waiting for their son to have the cavity done and like on their iPad going, oh yeah, I'm going to learn how to do grep commands in my new Unix operating system. Like, I don't think so. Right. So, and yet we say we have to be micro learning. And I think of micro learning. How could you can't learn anything in a micro, like anything important. No, I
You can use
shouldn't
it
say
to
that.
cook. You can use it
What's
to
that?
cook. You can use it to
Well,
cook.
okay. There's-
You know,
Correct. There's
you know,
lots of
you can
reasons.
use it
Yeah,
to heat food. It'll heat
That's
food,
right.
and it'll heat food in a
Well,
few seconds,
Just
which is what I'm going to have to go and do in a minute.
yeah, but just to give you an idea of let's say the tech industry, here's an old joke, and it applies. How many programmers does it take to paint a house?
I don't know. Buy a new house?
1,001. One to hold the brush and 1,000 to lift it up and down.
That's right. That's
Oh,
good.
on that note, Rick. On that note.
On that note, ponder that, people. Ponder that. I got worse ones, but I'll tell you after the show. Anyway, Bill, you got to come back. It's been way too long. I miss you. It's
I enjoyed this. This was fun.
and I'll give you a call after this too. I got some ideas and maybe some things we can help you with. But anyway, Bill Cushard, his information is going to be below on the notes. Please visit his website and get a hold of him. Bill's a great guy and he does know a lot. And thank you for watching the show. And Bill, thanks for coming on again. We look forward to seeing you soon. Lesley, till next time. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks.
I'm not here next week. I'm
Oh,
at
not
Learning
next week.
Technologies
Okay.
Next week.
Oh, right.
So
2
it'll
weeks
be
from
a
now.
fortnight.
So the week when you get
weeks.
back, we'll do a recap of what you found at Learning Technologies.
Yeah, we can do that. I
That
can
sounds
talk
great.
About learning. I don't know if you've ever been to Learning Technologies, Bill, but it's a really fantastic
A lot of energy.
conference expo.
Not to mention you're in England. It's fun.
It's Europe's biggest learning technologies, and
Oh, wow.
the guys who run it also run the eLearning Guild events, are involved with Elliot Maisy as well.
Okay.
So
Yep.
it's so I'm seeing David Kelly next week, Patty Shank next week, and a whole load of Connie Malamad, a whole load of folks.
Oh, Connie. I haven't seen Connie in
US.
ages.
Familiar names.
Yeah, I'll
Yep.
see if I can persuade Connie to come on the show.
Oh, she's been on many times, and we haven't talked to her in I don't know why. I love Connie. She's great.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I'm seeing Connie next week as well.
Great. Well, we'll see you all next week. Have a good one. Well, bye-bye.
Okay, take care. Thanks, everyone. Bye.